Welcome back to Worldwide Exchange. The nomination of RFK as the next Secretary of Health is facing increasing backlash since President-elect Trump's announcement last week. That includes from within the Republican Party, at least according to Politico, which says the pushback against Kennedy and a number of his views on health care could jeopardize his confirmation. If he is confirmed, Kennedy will be tasked with implementing the Trump health agenda, including care access through market competition, deregulation, and reversing Biden-era policies, as well as the future of the Affordable Health Care Act. For much more on this, let's bring in Marc Miller, President and CEO of Universal Health Services, one of the largest hospital management companies in the U.S. Marc, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Frank. Good to see you again.
All right, so Marc, we were lucky enough to talk to you before the election. You basically told us, I'm paraphrasing, you've been able to work with any incoming administration. It doesn't really matter who's in the White House. Does the potential selection of RFK as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, does that change that stance at all?
I don't think so. I mean, we're obviously aware of everything that's been reported in the news. We'll see what happens with the confirmation hearings, but most of what he's discussed have to do with things outside of provider services. So our business has been very strong this year. We continue to expect it to remain that way. Demand for our services is high. And people are choosing to come to our hospitals. So we don't think anything that would happen at HHS would necessarily affect that in the upcoming years.
All right. So, Marc, I do have to say, I know you're not an analyst. You're not a stock analyst by any means, but I'm looking at your stock since the election. It's fallen about 4%. The rest of the health sector's fallen about 3.5%. Why do you think investors, and I know this isn't your area of expertise, but why do you think investors think that your stock and the healthcare sector could potentially be hurt by this incoming administration? What are the policies that you think people are concerned about?
Yeah, I think there's been an overreaction. I think that there has been some premise that the health insurers might do better under this new administration than the providers would. But we don't necessarily ascribe to that. I mean, I think that, like I said earlier, we're in a very good position. We've had strong factors as far as demand. We expect that to continue. Our operators have done a terrific job this past year in pivoting as the market has pivoted. And so we think that we have a lot of upside going forward. So I just think this is an overreaction to a switch from the Democrats to the Republicans, maybe some historical thoughts on that, but we're really not worried about it.
Yeah, by the way, important note, your shares are up about 1% in the pre-market right now. I want to turn back to one possibility under a RFK-led Department of Health and Human Services, the idea that the Affordable Health Care Act, it could be repealed or changed or, I guess lessened in some way. How would that potentially impact your business?
I mean, the premise of the question, certainly something that's out there, people have been talking about. We really don't believe this is something to worry about. We don't think that a Republican-led Senate and House is interested in doing that right now. So while there are certainly issues and people are talking a lot about the possible HHS pick, and Mr. Kennedy, we don't think that they're going to have the will or the desire, really, to go after ACA right now. There are other priorities for the administration that they've told us. We've obviously been in communication with a lot of the folks in Washington. So we just don't think this is a primary focus for them.
All right. I think a question on the other side of the coin here, Marc. The idea of deregulation, some of the priorities of this incoming administration, are any of these tailwinds for your business?
I think so. I mean, I think as the administration comes into work to improve the business climate and obviously the economy overall, that can only serve to help us as well as other industries, along with healthcare. But anything that they can do to ease regulation, make it easier for businesses to work in a future climate would help us. And we're excited about that possibility.
Marc Miller, CEO of UHS, great to have you here. Thank you again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, coming up here on Worldwide Exchange.